Okay, so we talked about ethics and security. However, one of the things that I think is kind of interesting about this topic is that security actually means something a little bit differently, or could mean something different in the bot space. It's less about perhaps the security of the channel, in other words, preventing other people from being involved in it, but how do you create a sense of confidence and integrity in the system that you're interacting with when it comes to bots. And so that sort of like reframed the question for us a little bit. We talked a lot about the ability for bots to be able to self-disclose and describe themselves. In other words, right now it's sort of open season. Oh, I said the thing. I meant, no, not Wild Wild West. What was the other one? Anyways, it's very open field, a playground, if you will, for bots. And so it's unclear, probably to most people, what a bot is actually doing, who's on the other side, whether or not there are humans who are monitoring the bot, and how to actually disclose that information. And so there's an opportunity for us in this room to collaborate on a way for bots to self-disclose. Amir and I have talked about this as being kind of like a robots.txt that describes what the bot does and what's happening to the data on the other side, which is really about setting privacy expectations and norms effectively. Let's see. We also have observed through actual experience that humans generally behave badly, regardless of whether they're dealing with bots or other humans. And so our job is not to actually solve that problem, but instead to find ways and strategies that we can share for responding to those things when it happens. So for example, if someone starts talking to a bot about committing some kind of legal act or illegal act, or for example wants to sell drugs, how do we deal with that, and how do we handle that? And through this self-disclosure, if a bot says, well, look, if you tell me illegal things that you're going to do to yourself or to someone else, we're going to disclose that to the authorities, then at least that person understands the context of that space and what type of security measures are in place. There's also an opportunity for platform providers to evaluate the way that bots behave. And so there can be approved and unapproved bots. Essentially, those bots which say that they do certain things and are evaluated for whether or not they actually do what they claim to do, versus bots that are not evaluated and therefore are in a space or a gray area where it's caveat emptor. It's up to you to sort of figure out whether or not you want to use this, which also I should point out creates an opportunity for there to be some kind of Yelp directory for bots where end users can go and create independent reviews of whether bots actually do what they say they're going to do and whether or not they've been burned or not. So some of the next steps that we think are worth considering either this afternoon, tomorrow, or ongoing is to figure out how we write essentially what is a code of conduct for bots where they self-assert. Here's the things that I do, here are the claims that I make about what I can do and how to interact with me, to make that both human readable, i.e. something like Creative Commons for bots, as well as machine readable. So essentially if there's any need for portability, each of the different bot platforms can look at that file and essentially say to end users, here's what this bot claims to do. We have an opportunity also to create a kind of ethical test suite for bots, where that test suite would go through and have a series of unit tests that evaluates whether or not the bot does what it claims to do. And then that's kind of it. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Chris.